You know when you're in a conversation and out of nowhere, there's this silence that feels like it lasts for 3 hours. You look to the side, force a smile, think of something to say, and nothing. Your mind freezes. The fear of no topic, it hits you. And deep down, you just want to disappear. The worst part? You start to think you lost the game, that the other person lost interest, or that you're not good at this. But let me tell you a secret that few people reveal. Even the most confident men in the world go through this. The difference is what they do in those exact seconds. Because confidence isn't a gift. It's not genetic. It's not a talent of someone born socially skilled. Confidence is strategy. It's silent behavior that completely changes the other person's perception of you. And when the conversation threatens to die, these men don't panic. They don't try to fill the silence by saying anything. They don't humiliate themselves trying to please. They use those seconds as an advantage, not as a threat. And the best part, you can do the exact same thing. Today, you're going to learn simple, applicable, and extremely powerful behaviors that transform any stalled conversation into a connection. Nothing forced, nothing exaggerated, no social clowning around. You'll discover what confident men do when it seems like the conversation has ended, and how that makes people want to stay close to them. Take a breath, because the game is about to change for you from now on. Have you ever experienced that moment when, out of nowhere, the conversation becomes no topic, and you feel your heart racing as if you've done something wrong? Relax. Silence doesn't mean rejection. It means transition. But most people give up before realizing this. The insecure person panics and starts saying anything. Do you like the atmosphere? And that's it. The atmosphere is ruined, but breathe with me. Silence is also part of the conversation. It's like music. Without a pause, it becomes noise. When you simply stay present, looking calmly, without fear of that mini emptiness, something magical happens. The other person perceives your confidence, and confidence attracts. Want a simple exercise? When the conversation stalls, breathe slowly, lean back, keep your gaze light. That alone changes the game. Look how interesting. When you feel uncomfortable, the energy becomes uncomfortable. But when you accept that silence, it changes its name. It becomes atmosphere. The confident person doesn't try to prove anything during that quiet moment. They allow themselves to feel the moment. Often, the other person even thinks, "Wow, he's relaxed. I like that." Because someone who isn't in a hurry to speak probably has something of value when they do speak. You're not there to perform. You're there to experience a real connection. Sometimes, you can even smile slightly to ease the tension and make it clear that everything is all right. That smile, that naturalness, it makes the person relax and want to continue the conversation with you. And here's a powerful secret. That mini silence you dread is the perfect moment for connection to happen. Imagine you're there. The conversation pauses. Instead of panicking, you take advantage of it. Take a sip of your drink, observe the surroundings, and slowly return to the other person's gaze. There's no rush. You don't lose value when you're silent. You show value. When you don't try to salvage the conversation all the time, the other person senses that you're not truly connected. No topic, you are sharing presence. And presence is rare these days. Whoever masters the silence masters the atmosphere. And when you start to master the atmosphere, my friend, then the conversation starts to follow you, not the other way around. When the conversation cools down and it seems no topic, most people try to pull anything out just to avoid dying right there in the middle of the conversation. Did you see the price of tomatoes? Nobody deserves that. What confident men do is different. They come back with depth. Instead of desperately changing the subject, they pick up on a detail the other person has already mentioned. Something simple like, "You said you moved to a different city. What made you make that decision?" Suddenly, that's it. You've opened an emotional door. This shows that you're paying attention, and really paying attention, which almost nobody does anymore these days. Because, think about it, when you change the subject unnecessarily, the conversation loses momentum. You convey anxiety, not interest. But when you delve deeper into something when you bring it up, the conversation flows naturally again. You create meaning, out of nowhere. The person who thought you were out of things to talk about starts talking more. Confident men know that the right questions aren't interrogations, they're invitations. And invitations have power. You can say something like, "Has it always been like this for you, or has it changed over time?" Look how that opens up possibilities. But here's a point that almost no one has told you. Depth doesn't mean being heavy-handed. It means being curious with elegance. You don't need to dredge up traumas over afternoon coffee. Just ask questions that make the person revisit good memories. Questions that take the conversation out of autopilot. The insecure person tries to be interesting. The confident person tries to be interested, because whoever is interested becomes interesting. When you pull off a clever hook, the other person feels seen. And when someone feels seen, they never want the conversation to end. Do you see the power of that? When a conversation seems to have nothing to say, it's common to feel the fear of ruining everything, as if silence were a sign of failure or lack of chemistry. But the confident person thinks differently. They know that connection doesn't arise from a desperate need to talk, but from a small act of genuineness. Instead of trying to impress with achievements or spouting nonsense to fill the air, they share something personal that warms the atmosphere, like a simple story from their day or a light opinion that shows personality. For example, yesterday I tried to cook, and I swear the instant noodles were offended by me. And this makes the other person relax and smile because they realize they are in front of someone who doesn't take themselves too seriously. This micro-vulnerability, revealing a human detail, breaks down social armor and creates identification. Suddenly, the silence that seemed strange becomes part of the conversation, a comfortable pause. You begin to feel that you don't need to perform for the other person to enjoy being there. And with that, the conversation that seemed to have nothing to say begins to come alive naturally, without you having to perform verbal acrobatics. The curious thing is that when you allow yourself to be real, the other person automatically feels permission to do the same. And then, instead of a conversation dying for lack of topics, you start discovering affinities, memories, stories that only emerge when there is safe emotional space. Just something like, "I always freeze when asked to recommend a movie. I forget them all at once." And that's it. Playful vulnerability creates a true connection, because those who try to appear perfect end up being artificial, while those who embrace their small imperfections convey strength and authenticity. The other person also starts to open up, because you've already shown that no one is being judged. The conversation stops being an exchange of empty information and becomes an exchange of presence, which is much more valuable. You start laughing at silly things, creating inside jokes, feeling that the vibe is good because now there is trust. And when there is trust, no topic can withstand it. This ability to reopen emotional space makes even silence turn into complicity. Before, you were there thinking about what to say. Now you're there enjoying being together. The conversation gains that delightful fluidity that makes time pass faster than it should. The person starts wanting to know more about you, and you about them, because now there's genuine curiosity. And curiosity is the fuel that keeps interest alive. That's how a seemingly uneventful moment transforms into a shared memory, the kind that generates a desire to meet again. You didn't need to recount great achievements or act super interesting. You just needed to be human enough for the other person to feel comfortable being human too. And whoever provides that feeling, my friend, is not easily forgotten. When a conversation threatens to run dry, many people try to salvage it by talking about random things or asking obvious questions like, "So, what's your favorite movie?" As if bringing up any topic would be enough to rekindle the flame. But in reality, this kills the vibe, because logical questions make the person think about the answer, not feel the answer. Emotional questions, on the other hand, unlock memories, stories, and sensations that the other person didn't even remember wanting to share. If you ask, "What did you like most about this?" they need to revisit the moment and feel it again. And when they feel it, they speak. This brings a sparkle to their eyes, a spontaneous smile, and most importantly, creates a real connection. Conversation isn't a checklist of topics, it's the transmission of emotion. And whoever knows how to ignite emotion knows how to ignite interest. A dry topic becomes an opportunity when you know how to ask the right question. Curiosity is the invisible tool that keeps someone wanting to keep talking. The confident person understands that emotional questions are subtle invitations for the other person to see themselves reflected in your story. A simple phrase like, "Did that surprise you?" already changes the tone because it makes them stop and think about what really impacted them at that moment, and this reflection generates more conversation than any forced change of subject. Another powerful one. What part was the best for you? This question creates a narrative, creates expectation, makes the person choose a detail that is likely accompanied by laughter, expressions, and then the conversation gains new life. It's not about making the person talk more, it's about making the person speak with more feeling. While insecure people try to be interesting, confident people make the other person feel interesting, and that's irresistible. You become someone who knows how to activate emotion, and those who activate emotion never run out of things to talk about. Have you ever noticed that when someone shares something enthusiastic, the conversation explodes with energy? That's because emotion is contagious, but emotion needs to be invited in. It doesn't appear on its own. Logical questions keep everything on autopilot, but emotional questions take the person out of the ordinary and put them in a conversation worth continuing. You don't need to be the most talkative person. You just need to be the person who awakens feelings in the other person. And that's exactly what differentiates the confident person. They don't try to prove they're cool. They make the other person feel cool. When someone realizes that with you, they access their most vibrant side, they want to stay, they want to deepen the connection, they want to repeat it, and whoever becomes a source of good feelings becomes memorable. When a conversation stalls and seems to have nothing to say, many people think the problem lies in the topics themselves, and they frantically change the subject like someone flipping through channels trying to find something worthwhile. But almost always, the problem isn't the topic, it's the energy. The confident person notices this because they pay attention to micro-reactions. A drooping gaze, a fading smile, a voice losing its sparkle. They understand that this drop doesn't mean a lack of interest. It simply means the vibe has changed. So instead of launching into a, "So, how's the weather today, huh?" they change the emotional tone. If it was serious, they bring lightness. If it was too light, they bring curiosity. And if it was curious, they add subtle humor. This dance of energy rekindles the sparkle in the conversation. Because, ultimately, what makes someone want to keep talking isn't the content. It's how they feel with you while they're talking. This skill is almost invisible, but extremely powerful. You can, for example, make a quick, light comment about something that happened right there, like, "That waiter is definitely in a toxic relationship with the menu. He's glued to it," and that instantly changes the mood of the moment. The other person laughs, relaxes, and that's it. The atmosphere changes. It wasn't the topic that saved the conversation. It was the energy you brought. Thus, the conversation ceases to be a linear path and becomes an experience that adjusts to the mood of the moment. You show that you know how to lead without seeming controlling, and this emotional security is perceptible. The person feels they are in good hands, and those who feel in good hands don't want to leave. Remember, whoever masters the vibe masters the connection. Reading the context also means respecting the emotions that are happening there. There are times when the other person just needs a break, and insecure people ruin everything by desperately trying to start a conversation. The confident person allows the conversation to breathe. They can simply smile, make gentle eye contact, and convey calm. This calmness is a silent message. No need to force anything, everything is fine here. Interestingly, it is precisely in those moments when it seems like they're out of things to talk about that chemistry is built in the subtext. Knowing how to change the energy creates a kind of magnetism that makes the other person think, "I want to see where this goes." And when someone really wants to know where the conversation is going, It doesn't end so soon. When a conversation seems to run out of steam, the insecure person panics and tries to prolong the moment at all costs, as if leaving would mean losing the game, insisting on extending the chat even when their energy is already at its limit. The confident person does the exact opposite. They know that leaving at the right time is the most elegant way to show value. They recognize when the peak has been reached and end with presence, leaving that feeling of, "I want more," in the air. Instead of saying goodbye with apologies and embarrassment, they say something like, "I enjoyed this conversation. Let's continue this later." And that's it. They create an expectation of continuity. They ended on a high note. They ended before running out of things to talk about. And that's magnetic. People miss what didn't end, wanting to pick up what was left open. Whoever knows when to leave is always invited back. This strategy has a very strong emotional logic. When you confidently withdraw, you communicate that you have an interesting life outside of that you don't depend on that conversation to feel validated or important. This automatically increases your social value because you show that good conversation is the norm in your life, not the exception. While some insist until they tire the other person out, the confident person creates the opposite. They leave the other person with energy left over to remain interested. They make the ending an invitation, not a goodbye. This takes all the weight off the moment and leaves a positive emotional trail in the other person's memory. And when someone keeps a positive memory of you, they want to relive that feeling again. Ending things forcefully isn't coldness, it's social wisdom. You demonstrate that you understand the rhythm of the conversation, that you respect the other person's time, and that you trust in your own worth. The person leaves thinking about you, imagining what could have happened if the conversation had gone a little further, and that it could have is the most powerful trigger of human interest. It's curiosity that keeps the flame alive. Those who end on a high note become someone who is missed, someone who generates expectation, someone who leaves the door open for something bigger. And it's in this subtlety that confident men create lasting connections, even when it seems they ran out of things to talk about. They transform the pause into a desire for the next chapter. Now that you know exactly what confident men do when a conversation threatens to die, the question remains, will you continue to freeze in silence, or will you transform those seconds into your greatest power? Because in the end, nobody remembers the perfect conversation, but everyone remembers how they felt during a conversation. And when you master these simple behaviors, you'll never run out of things to talk about again, because the topic becomes the energy you create around you. So tell me, which of these attitudes will you apply first? Will you breathe and maintain your presence? Will you use an emotional question? Or will you end the conversation on a high note and leave it wanting more? Comment below what resonated most with you or a situation where the conversation stalled. I want to know how you're going to turn things around from today onwards. And here's the thing. If you want to further improve your communication, your presence, and your social confidence, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because there's a lot of content coming to transform you into a man impossible to ignore. Don't put it off. Your next big step starts when you click that button.